Hi everyone, how are you doing? So today I'm in New York City and I'm with somebody very interesting. You've heard of Superman, you've heard of Batman. Oh, there's Mr. PeaceMan. Right? And look at him. Look at him. He's always dressed up like this. I met him in Oslo. He was dressed up like this. I was like, who is this guy? But, you know, his peace logo is missing here. So we need, you know, I don't know what that logo means, but we need to get him like a peace sign. And Mr. Salata himself is here, and we're going to hear what's his story. So thank you, first of all, for meeting me up here in such a short notice.
Of course.
And I love your office.
Thank you.
I love WeWork.
Thank you. We have two offices. We actually have a Peace Accelerator office in Bushwick, but we use this WeWork office, which is close to the UN. The UN is just less than 5-minute walk from here, and this is where a lot of the NGOs that work with the UN work out at this office. So we're all on these floors. Actually, the United Way is just a few floors below, which is the world's largest, I believe, nonprofit. So their New York office is in this building as well.
United Way is, what does it do?
They do a lot. They work in many different areas of aid and all over the world. And I think that their annual donations is like $30 billion or something. I think pretty sure they're the largest as far as
dollar number
donation generated. Yeah.
Well, I think the largest number of employees goes to Brock, 190,000 employees.
Is what?
Brock, B-R-A-C.
Oh.
Start from Bangladesh.
Makes sense.
So what
my
got
story?
you into this costume, man? You know, like Spider-Man was bit by the spider.
So
Superman
this
came from somewhere else.
Designed by my friend Katya, and Katya makes spacesuits. He just named it a peace suit, which I think is pretty fun. Actually, I have another one too. This was my blue one. I have a white one. I just happen to have
that's
on
what
me.
you were wearing when
This
I saw
is
you.
what I was wearing when I was speaking in Oslo. This is my cool white one. I've got. I plan to have more and just wear them every day. But the concept is Peace Accelerators is the organization that I helped create, and Peace Accelerators is about blending data-driven strategy and futurism with peace. And so I think a lot of times when we think of peace, we often think of only spiritual leaders, or we may think of more of like a monk or someone who is very religious. And I think there's obviously a huge spiritual element to peace always, but we also like the science element of it as well. And so we use astronauts as our mascot for peace. Astronauts, they all get along in the International Space Station, no matter what country they're from, and they're looking at the planet as one planet without all these borders. And so I wear this. This is actually the Earth flag. This is they made it in 2015 out of Sweden. And the concept to me is I don't really believe in borders. I think that they are something we've created and invented, and really this planet is all of ours. And so I try to represent the Earth rather than representing a certain country. And I think that that's what peace is about: is seeing us all as just Earthlings on one place. So, yeah. So
Very cool. So what got you started in this peace process?
I actually used to work in solar energy, and I realized I was in solar energy to try to make a more peaceful planet. I believe in solar energy, and I believe in renewable energy as one of the fast technologies that we need, or one of the adoptions we need to adopt quickly to create a more peaceful planet. But I was about to move to Uganda, and I was going to do solar work in Uganda. I was going to help teach some Ugandans how to spread solar energy through their communities and how to sell it. And before I did, I came to New York for a week. It was actually completely spontaneous. I came to New York for a week, and I was living in California at the time, in LA actually, in Malibu, California. And I was moving to Uganda, and I'd already done some solar work in Kenya. And while I was in New York visiting, I'd been studying peace a lot last year in 2016. And I was really studying Steven Pinker. He's one of my favorite thought leaders as far as he's an evolutionary psychologist at Harvard, and he wrote a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature. And this book is about how humans, every generation, are actually killing each other less by ratio. So there's lots of problems in the world, and there's lots of horrific things going on. but overall, there's some data that it helps me at least be optimistic towards where we can go.
Percentage-wise.
Yeah, percentage-wise. And so, so I was here on the International Day of Peace, which most people don't realize exists. And that day is on September 21st. It was created in 1983 by the United Nations. And so I actually had a different spacesuit, and I went to an early morning dance party called Daybreaker. And they actually are now in 20 different cities worldwide, and it's a sober morning dance party that's really fun. And they didn't realize it was the International Day of Peace, which no big deal, and I let them know. And then we had this awesome morning party. And then I left and wanted to go to every International Day of Peace event I could possibly find in New York. And so I got out my phone on Google and I said, New York International Day of Peace events. And there really was nothing, pretty much. There was like one tiny little thing that was private at the UN that you had to register for days before. And it really upset me and it frustrated me more than anything. And I thought peace is something that's for everybody. And it's something we should be celebrating, even though it's not perfect yet. We don't have a perfect, peaceful world, but we've gotten a lot farther than where we used to be. And so it was also a really negative year for the U.S. So what I did is I decided to do an event, or we decided to put on an event. And so I put on an event called We Are One Species.
Same day?
And no, not that day. That would be cool. But this, it took about a month to plan it. We created a video. We actually put it. It was we put it together the weekend before the election. So before Trump was elected, when still Barack Obama was president, obviously. And there was a very negative, angry year on social media last year because of the election in the United States. So we put this event on to say, even though everyone has all these different opinions, we're still in this together no matter what, as a species. And it was a really beautiful event. There was really amazing energy. And the goal was to get at least 100 people. And the reason is we're doing it again this year. And this year we're doing it on the International Day of Peace. And we're doing it in Central Park. And our goal is to have at least 1,000 people in Central Park. And we're actually growing it every year. So next year our goal is to have 10,000 people. And then in 2019, which is a Saturday, our goal in New York is to have 100,000 people celebrating peace. And then in the year 2020, our goal is to have 1 million people celebrating peace in New York City. And so those are some, I know some big goals, but we think that they're achievable. We think that the mission, the part of it is that there's no day right now in the world that the entire planet celebrates. Kind of Earth Day, but not really. And I think that if there's one holiday that we should all be celebrating in every country, it's the International Day of Peace. It should be the first universal holiday worldwide that we all celebrate. And I didn't invent the International Day of Peace. I'm just trying to help promote it and help people celebrate it more. So I just got back from Oslo, which I was there at Catapult with you. And Oslo is actually going to put on the event as well. And so if you're watching this...
So it's Karachi.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this, no matter where you're at, I do ask, I would love for you to put on a celebration in your city or your town, wherever you're at, for the International Day of Peace.
And it doesn't have to be 1 million people. It could be just you and your friend.
It can be 5 people.
Yeah.
It can be 10 people. It can be very, very simple.
That's how it starts.
Totally, exactly. Let's start it at a grassroots level and just have fun. It's just about having fun and remembering that the whole world is actually in this together, no matter where you're born, where you're from, or what language you speak, that we're in this, and that nonviolence is the true solution to a healthier planet and a more sustainable planet in general. And so some suggestions, if it's warm outside in September where you live, maybe get a park permit. You can do it outside, you can have some musicians and get a stage and have some speakers. And so we had speakers, we had meditation leaders, but you can do it however you want. We're naming the event in New York, We Are One Species. We would love for everyone to call it We Are One Species, so the whole world's celebrating together. But regardless, you can call it whatever you want. But we're encouraging you to celebrate the International Day of Peace as much as possible. That's one of our 3 initiatives that we do as Peace Accelerators. So we're going to do it in San Francisco as well. We're going to do it in LA. But we'd love for it to be celebrated all over the world. We'd love to live stream with each other and to connect with each other the whole time. But we want to have kind of these like digital phone booths at each event where we can all be communicating with each other. Because I was at the Women's March in DC, and it was one of the coolest events I've ever been a part of because it was happening in so many places across the world at the same time. And that was a really, really cool event as well. And so this is a day that we think we can help somewhat unite the world, at least for one day, is part of the goal. And also, we're not in it only as our organization. We were trying to collaborate with as many organizations as possible, because I don't think that peace is this. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration always, in every way.
So, Peace Accelerator was born. How do you fund it?
How do we fund it? Yeah, so great question. Initially, we had a little bit of private funding, very little. But if you are watching this, we have our first fundraiser coming up, and we're really excited. And it's not just for this International Day of Peace event. We have a fundraiser called 100,000 Seconds for Peace, and this is a fundraiser we've been putting a lot of energy to. We have a team. We have one of the best violinists in New York is actually going to play violin for 100,000 seconds straight. And so we're going to be releasing this video, and one of them's already released, but we have a website for this, and it's on June 20th, which is actually World Refugee Day. So a lot of people, so we like playing with these days that most people don't realize already exist. And our job, yeah, I can close this. You got it? Okay. So World Refugee Day, if you don't know, is June 20th. And on that day, Andre Maturin, who's an incredible violinist, is going to be playing violin for 27 hours straight, it's actually 100,000 seconds. So the event is called 100,000 Seconds for Peace. And he's going to have all these other musicians come through during that time. He's actually going to have meditation leaders come in at that time. He's going to be playing alongside them. We're going to have yoga. We're even going to do a sustainable fashion show during this time that he's playing. And then the end's going to be this large celebration called 10,000 Seconds of Triumph. So we're dividing it into 10,000 second sections. But during the whole time, people can donate. They can tune in through live stream. If you're watching this as I'm being live streamed, we're going to be live streaming him the entire time, the entire 27 hours and 46 minutes and 40 seconds. We would love it, no matter where you're at in the world, if you're watching this, to maybe project it, like if at your workplace, and be like, this guy, even if you put it on silent, this guy is just playing violin nonstop in this marathon. He's not even sure if he's going to use the bathroom. I guess he'll find some way, but it's going to be a really fun event, and where the proceeds will go is we're actually working on sending hydroponic technology and vertical farming technology to refugee camps that basically have limited access to water. And so I'm friends with lots of these different urban farming companies in New York, and was at this urban farming networking event last night. And so we're working on how can we use locally sourced materials in refugee areas to help build hydroponic systems so they can have more nutrients and live healthier lives than they do right now. So that's where the proceeds will go on this initiative.
So Peace Accelerator sounds like an incubator for all the peace organizations in the world. How do they become part of your accelerator? Because there are at least 1,000 organizations around the globe with the word peace in it. Mm-hmm. Ours is one called the Institute of Peace. Yeah. So how do we join an accelerator, and what do we get out of it? Yeah,
great point. So we're actually working on building our website over this month, and a little bit of some of the funding that's built in, because we want to have a gorgeous, beautiful, easy access website that's really well branded. Mm-hmm. And so I guess what I'm saying with that is if you work in a peace organization, we would love to feature you on the Peace Accelerator website, because we want every peace organization in the world to be known, no matter which area you're at. And so that's one section we want on our website that will be coming out. So feel free to write me if you run a peace organization, no matter where you're at, what part of the world you're in. And so we're going to put a map on our website that says which area are you located in, or where do you want to find a peace organization. And then you can research all the different peace organizations in every single area of the world, so that we can all be cooperating and collaborating together, because we all have the same exact mission, even if we're going about it in different ways. Another thing that you should know, so I'm lucky because I live in New York City, which is very close to the United Nations. Once a month, I get to unite peace leaders from all over New York and the world, and we're actually forming what's called a major group which gets to participate in the high-level political forum at the UN. So that takes place once a month, but we also have a call-in. So if you run a peace organization worldwide, which Rehan, we definitely want you at our next one, on the 15th, we meet at the Baha'i Center by the UN every month. And as this organization grows larger and larger, we can actually speak to all the world leaders every year at the high-level political forum when they set the SDG goals about how to set agendas for peace and how can we get to peace faster. And so it's really important that as peace leaders in the world that we all unite as much as possible and that we know each other. So I'm really, really grateful for Rehan for doing so much of this and for traveling the world the way he does and for really promoting peace leaders. And I really commend him and his courage and what he's doing. And so if you are a peace leader from any area, we definitely recommend that we unite as much as possible and help each other's initiatives and promote each other's initiatives. I want to promote initiatives you're working on, and that really helps fuel this acceleration as much as possible.
Okay, so that's about connecting together. The map shows the peace organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also have like an option for actual incubation of a project which basically unites the world or sees the world as an Earth rather than United States or whatever? Do you also have something like that in the pipe?
That's the goal. I mean, the goal is to basically be a platform that we can attract all sorts of investors from all over the world, and they can come to one platform and find areas they can donate. And we want to have a very transparent place on our website that you can say exactly what your needs are for an organization, and investors can go through this platform. And we want to make this much easier for investors and really for the peace leaders, because what I find is that sometimes it's a really difficult conversation. How do you find an investor, and where do you go after them? And so if we can make that conversation easier for the peace leaders to have these brilliant ideas out there, that's one thing I'm really passionate about building over the next year is what I would call more of like a sharing platform. And so investors, what they're really doing is they're sharing the resources they have with the resources somebody else has, which is the ideas and the passion and the energy to make these things happen. And so we that is in the works, but I won't say that it's going to be in the next month or two, but the goal, Peace Accelerators just started recently, but we have been doing really well. We've grown very fast in New York City. We had, originally, when we started, we had about 10 people or so. Now our community is around 700 community members in New York, and we do everything from musicians to entrepreneurs and all these data scientists from across New York, and we love uniting these people. But that is in the works, to answer your question.
Alrighty. Anything you want to add on top of what I forgot?
Last thing I think that might be good to add. Well, our last initiative is, I wouldn't just say it like an apology. The United States is beautiful in many ways, but there's also many problems that we are permeating through the world. And I just want you to know, as an American, or being born here, that I'm doing whatever I can to change American mindsets when we have maybe some mindsets that need to be changed and adapted to a more of a globalized mindset. And so one thing that we're working on as Peace Accelerators, just so you know, is to end capital punishment here in the United States. And why is that important? Well, to me, if we want to be less aggressive throughout the world, I think first we have to start internally, the same way that peace starts internally. And so we're working on animations over this year to help change the mindset for Americans that we shouldn't be killing our own species inside with capital punishment, and because most developed nations don't have it, and we think that we're behind in that mindset. We think as that happens, we'll become, my personal opinion is, my hypothesis is we'll become less of a militant nation, which our military budget is insane, and I'm not going to stop speaking about that. Our military budget is more than the next 15 countries combined. It's insane. It's $650 billion almost right now. And so I'm looking to continue to bring this up as an activist and to continue to push to say, why are we spending this money on weapons and bombs when we could be spending this money on hydroponic farms to feed people And what different message are we saying if we start feeding refugees in war-torn areas and helping them grow more nutrients? And so I guess it's not just an apology, but just coming from an American, that I know that we're not perfect in any way, and I don't want you to ever think that we think we are here. We know that there's a lot of work that has to be done in the United States, and that's partly why I'm in New York City, is to help change mentalities and mindsets while I'm here. And I'm sorry for any of the damage that we have done at times.
Thank you. That was very beautiful. Can you define what is peace?
Peace? Peace has a lot of definitions, and at times it can be a really complex subject to dive into. But to me, peace is recognizing that no matter where you're born, no matter who you are, that we're all in this together, and that nonviolence is the only way you can truly end war. In my personal opinion, when we become violent, and I know that it may seem easy for me to say this when I don't have to live in areas that are much more challenging than other areas, but our life is our message, as Gandhi says, and many others. And if we are violent, then we're also teaching violence. And I know that takes an insane amount of bravery in certain parts of the world to be nonviolent. I fully understand that. But I think that peace is recognizing that as we're all in this together, that violence will never solve the real problems that we're looking to solve. And I think that it's also the fastest solution to climate change. That's why I work in this. Is I think the more we get along together and collaborate instead of compete, that the faster we can solve some of these ecological and environmental issues as well.
What would you see in the world that you would say now there is peace in the world?
Great point. And that's probably what I spoke at, where we met. Right now, if you don't know, 56 million people died last year in the world. But 140 to 150,000 of those deaths estimated came from global conflict, like political conflict, and so that's about 0.25% of the deaths that took place, which is a relatively small amount. So I would say that I think we could basically say there's global peace if we could get that amount to 0.0001, and I think that's possible, and at least 0.001. And I think that it's actually, if Syria's war was ended, and if the Iraqi war ended, and the Afghanistan war ended, and the Mexican drug war, which are the four largest, but if we ended those, we would be relatively close. And I know we still have conflicts in everywhere from in Sudan and the things we have happening in North Korea and everywhere else, but if we ended our four largest global conflicts right now, we would almost be there. And I think that's easy, not easier, but I think that's more possible than people realize in certain ways. And a lot of that, I think, starts with the United States. And that's why I'm here, is I am fighting philosophically for many areas in the Middle East, to say, I don't think we're going about this the right way. I think that we can be doing this much better, and I think we can be solving this with a lot more nonviolence. And I do encourage you to watch all the TED Talks about nonviolence and how much in the last century, if you don't realize, and from 1900 to 2000, nonviolent revolutions were twice as successful as overturning authoritarian governments and dictators. And actually, every generation for the last 100 years, they've been growing more and more successful than they've ever been. So I do think that even through data, we can prove that nonviolence is becoming more and more the answer. And so I encourage, no matter, I know it takes a lot of bravery, but if you're watching this, to take the high road and to take the brave road and the most courageous road as much as you can, and believe in nonviolence, because that is a true leader, in my personal opinion.
You are very near to United Nations, And a lot of people in the world see as United Nations a failed organization in general to prevent criminal activities from happening in the globe. Now, most people in the world are not 2 blocks away from the United Nations. They don't see what you see. What would you like them to see?
I think that we, as a species, we're very attracted to negative news because partly it's a defense mechanism. And so we're very attracted to what the United Nations hasn't solved yet and what they haven't solved. And we often forget to look at what the United Nations has solved. Now, I will say that I also don't think the United Nations is perfect. So I'm not trying to say the United Nations is the solution in every way. I personally think that I'm for the United Nations and for the nations uniting, but I also personally believe, and this is maybe one of the largest vehicles I've gotten to speak about this on, I think that we're going to have a more globalized leadership system evolving over the next decade to decade and a half. And I think with the emergence of blockchain technologies and some of the new technologies we have something more, we have the ability to vote as a globalized planet more than we ever have before. And so I encourage you to study these technologies and to realize that I think that there is an earth-wide vote that may be able to happen within the next 5 or 10 years. And I'm looking to help initiate these and have these conversations and be in these conversations about a globalized leadership system. I don't think we have to call it a government, because I think that developed people and educated people are really looking for leadership and looking for just a little bit of influence rather than enforcement. I don't think we have to write laws all the time constantly and say you have to do this always. I think sometimes we're just looking for people we trust to guide us in certain ways. And so I like to think that it could be an Earth High Council, a council that could be initiated over the next 5 to 10 years, maybe 15. And I'm not the only one in this thinking. There's a Swedish billionaire that's paying $5 million right now to who can, evolve and create a new a UN 2.0. So I will say that I'm pro-UN as far as I think the UN is doing what they can, and I don't think they're perfect, and I do think there's probably some types of corruption there. But I do think that there's also, that doesn't mean we can't help build something else as well that maybe is a little bit more fluid and streamlined and a little bit more simple and less bureaucratic.
Amazing. Why do you do all this?
I do this because I want to do my best to live up to my potential, hopefully. And I also, my only real fear is that I might be on a dying bed one day or something and think, could I have done more? And so I don't want to live with that feeling ever. I want to every day be feeling like I'm doing as much as I possibly can. And I think that we should all be doing that. And I believe in humanity. I believe in our species. I believe in this beautiful thing that we get to have called life. And I think that I believe in that truly. I guess the last thing with this, there's a quote that says, if a flower's not blooming, don't try to change the flower, change the environment. And so I think that every human from the time they're born has the potential to kind of be a flower, I guess, in this scenario. But I don't think that we, right now, are giving many of these humans the right environment. And so I'm hoping that through this I can help continue to create more beautiful environments for people to thrive and encourage them to become the top of, or to live to their fullest potential, hopefully. But I can only help that if I'm hopefully doing that in my own life as well.
What can other people from around the globe do as action? 3 things to become more like you, or to become, to be able to reach their full potential.
Yeah. Step 1 is believe in yourself no matter what, and stop caring what people think. Because, look, I'm wearing a spacesuit. but what I mean is
peace suit.
A peace suit. I'm wearing a peace suit. But I really mean it when I say that Like, for example, I had a friend of mine that was an incredible environmental activist, one of the top ocean cinematographers, and he passed away filming his documentary a couple months ago. And I realized what a change he made on the planet in his short time here. And he maybe not made as big of a change as he was continuing to want to make, and he might have if he was still. But once he passed, I realized his message, his life was a message, and your life is a message. And so step one, I think, is really realizing, stop caring what people think, and start thinking, what are you trying to say with your life? What are you trying to say? And so stop caring what people think, and what are you trying to say? Step two is, I would say, start now. No matter what, no matter how many resources you have. A lot of times I think we wait. We wait until we have enough saved up, or we wait until we achieve something else, but there's actually something more we're wanting to do. If there's something that, if you know of some solution that you think could change the world, then you're the one that's supposed to create it. It's not somebody else. If you have an idea of what the future should look like, then go build that. Don't wait on somebody else. So start now. So stop caring what people think. Start now. And the last, this gets a little bit spiritual, but my personal belief is surrender. And I guess what I mean is, like, trust that there are forces that are greater than you, that are helping you if you're doing something that's noble. The universe is a giant place. We can't calculate it. Our brains can't even comprehend how massive it is. And I can give you some analogies, but I won't get into them. But who knows how many incredible forces there are at work across this universe. If you believe you're doing something that's great for everyone, and it's rooted in nonviolence and peace, I surrender and know your heart. And I know my heart. There's times that maybe I mess up, and we all mess up. And there's times that we're going to mess up, but know your heart and surrender to something that you feel is greater, no matter what that is. And so I think that that's really important. And also, with that, forgive. Forgive all the people around you constantly when they mess up. Forgive yourself constantly when you mess up. But constantly forgive, because we all make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. I make so many, and it's so hard to know what's best use of my time. But constantly forgive everyone, because they're going through problems just like you are, and it's really, really changed my life when I start forgiving more.
Can I give you a hug?
Yeah, of course.
Beautiful soul.
Thank you.
Very happy. Can I give you a kiss on the cheek?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You're an amazing guy.
Thank you. You guys are the change. We are the change.
So everyone who is watching, if you haven't added him yet on Facebook, you're missing out on one of the beautiful souls of the planet. I have met a lot of people in my life, and I feel like crying. And this is definitely one of the sweetest souls in the world. And I hope that the universe will take advantage of his courage. I hope the universe will take, I think that's the word, take full advantage of what his heart is trying to achieve. And I hope you all will help him reach there, because he definitely is doing a good job and a light worker, and he's spreading the light in the world. And if all of you can help me and help him and create the future you want to see in the world. Of course, there's a lot of mess in the world, but should we give up hope? Should we just not do anything about it? Or should we take a small little action which might change the world? Because the whole huge trees, they just come from a small little seed. It doesn't require a lot of seeds to grow one plant, right? So, but your one intention, your one small little effort, you might not think that it's day doing anything, but a few years from now, you will see that it has actually done something. Thank you so much. It's an honor meeting you.
Yeah, same.
I'm speechless. And yeah, so add this guy and follow him and work with him and see whatever you can do with him to help his cause, to become the change you want to be in the world. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you guys, and I want to help you as well.